Life is an exercise in futility. We work ourselves to the bone to have food and shelter, but it's all a waste of time as we're doomed to die from the moment we're born anyway. And that's how I justify spending part of my life ranking children's cartoons from best to worst without feeling like I've wasted it. So let's drown our sorrows in alcohol, your preferred lethal drug of choice, and learn how to count to 5. Learning the importance of how to have fun with a game rather than crushing the competition is something I think every single online community in the world needs to have drilled into their head forcefully with my evil communist dark magic. But learning the importance of roaring at a bitch when she just won't listen is equally, if not more important for everyone to learn. And that's why Buckball season is great. Now if only someone could teach both Blizzard and Riot Games that lever penalties are what's actually fostering toxicity in their games, we might have a perfect run going into 2017. I thought Crusaders of the Lost Mark was the nadir of just how diabolically lazy DHX could be, but it seems my condemnation of fast-forwarding through a crappy plot and using a major story development as a crutch was interpreted as a challenge because DHX decided to do the same thing but without all the pesky nonsense of having to make an actual story, so instead they just retold A Christmas Carol. In May. A Hearth's Warming Tale is the very pinnacle of wasted time. This story's been adapted and readapted so many times that it's practically the white noise of holiday specials, and this is a judgment I'm not alone in because the majority of people who assured me that it was good would only ever mention the fact that Luna gets a song. Not a particularly good sell you're making there, old chap. If you're the kind of paint-drinking dipshit who believes the delusional nonsense that the clinically senile spits out about the kids these days, then Flutterbutter might sound right up your alley. But an episode where a family member actively helps their struggling sibling rather than let them waste away and use them as an excuse to bitch and moan about welfare might be a little too Jonah for you. Fluttershy has been the high point of the series ever since making an amazing turnaround in Season 4, and teaching her little brother how to grown up is both funny and heartwarming. DHX, don't ruin Fluttershy, please. She's been nothing short of perfect for 2 years now. I don't like to say I told you so. Oh wait, who am I kidding? I love to say I told you so. Told ya! Starlight's reformation was so badly handled in all directions that relapsing was practically an inevitability. So here comes every little thing she does to show Starlight engaging in the exact same behavior she was introduced with, and then being let off the hook with nary a slap on the wrist once again. DHX had the opportunity to turn Starlight around into a good character and instead opted to remind us all why she wasn't one in the first place. Smooth move, dicks for eyes! You sure showed me! Flurry Heart being adorable was the high point of the crystalling, unless you're the kind of weirdo who actually likes Starlight. So let's take that, but instead of constructing the Crystal Heart, let's talk about racism. The idea that a police force is unnecessarily hostile to what is essentially a pony but slightly darker, and then paranoid that it could be anywhere may seem topical to you, and that's because it is. The Times They Are a Changeling is a rare example of Friendship is Magic pulling absolutely no punches when it comes to delivering an important lesson. Some might think it's odd for such a turnaround and acceptance to happen after one song and a flimsy explanation of one's motivations, and I would say, yes, it is odd. Nice to see you've all come around to what I've been saying for a year. We all know it's annoying when fans bicker about the things they're fans of. Why don't the writers know this? While an episode that features the kind of worthless platitudes that passes for discourse among fandom sounds great on paper, there's a reason why most people try to avoid interacting with fandom in the first place, and that's because it's murder on the ears. How Stranger Than Fanfiction managed to pass its first table read without being immediately scrapped will always baffle me. The overall theme of Friendship is Magic is that there's no wrong way to be a girl, and this has never been more apparent than with Spike, a boy who has quite a fair share of traditionally feminine interests. Gauntlet of Fire pushes this even further by implicitly saying that if you're the kind of evolutionary reject that makes life hell for a boy like Spike, then you deserve whatever embarrassing punishment it's possible to bestow upon you. Oh, then yeah, masculinity can be good too, I guess. It's not like I like muscular women or anything. It's common for people on the internet to blame critics for their favorite movie or TV show performing badly. One of the main reasons Civil War made so much more money than Batman v Superman is because the latter was eviscerated by critics, and rightly so, it was terrible. But Spice Up Your Life opted to paint critics as self-serving narcissists putting other people down for their own benefit, rather than consumer reporters who watch shitloads of bad movies and eat shitloads of bad food so you don't waste your money. Not the first time Friendship is Magic has pulled this shtick, an episode that briefly skirted by the lesson it was supposed to teach to instead try and vilify a critic for doing her job. I often wonder if this keeps happening because the writers take review of their own show too personally. The The idea of what makes good comedy has been a touchy subject for quite some time, with edgelord comedians finding themselves the subject of criticism after their laziness has begun to wear on audiences, and while there's been some kicking and screaming about kids these days being too sensitive, it's an objective fact that your abilities as a comedian are decided by the audience and not by yourself. So it's a marvel that 28 Pranks Later comes out and doesn't bother pulling any punches. Rainbow is immediately lambasted for her lazy excuses for comedy, and when she refuses to listen, the main six hit her right in the ego and force her to learn the lesson firsthand. A flawless display by the writing team that woke up that morning and decided they were not gonna fuck around. Was it a retread of Mare Duel? I suppose, but Mare Duel was great. If you're gonna retread anything, retread that. No sense being coy, it's Newbie Dash. It speaks volumes that the closest thing to praise that Newbie Dash was ever given was that it was accurate to military life. Not good, just accurate. That's not a positive. Do Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep was accurate to my experiences dealing with clinical depression, and that's precisely why it was terrible. Emulating an organization that is constantly reevaluating its effectiveness and has been thoroughly criticized over the last 40 years and presenting your results as positive, especially when those results could be gone by next week for all we know, is as solid a decision as making a skyscraper out of biscuits. But tacitly encouraging victims of schoolyard bullying to grin and bear their torment because maybe they were making themselves a target is the nail in the coffin, and somebody ought to mosey on down to Dave Polsky's desk and smack him. Fuck Newbie Dash, fuck the people who wrote Newbie Dash, and fuck the people who've deluded themselves into thinking it's a positive representation of anything.